Welcome to Creepy Coffees, where the brew is bold and the stories are even bolder. I'm your midnight barista, Dawn Ravenscar.
And I'm your ghost host, Eddie Ravenscar. Tonight's episode is especially personal for me. We're heading to Amherst, Ohio, where a towering colonial mansion holds one of the most terrifying memories of my youth. We're diving into family betrayal, unspeakable murder, and the kind of hauntings that don't stay confined to legend. Because I didn't just hear this story, I lived part of it.
Grab your brew of choice and settle in. This is the Nabakowski Mansion Hauntings.
To understand the darkness that clings to the Nabakowski Mansion, we have to start with what it once was, a beacon of hope for three ambitious brothers looking to escape the choking soot and noise of 19th century Pittsburgh. Dr. Henry, Dr. Joseph, and Dr. Edward were Polish-American immigrants. Their parents came over during the industrial boom. The boys were brilliant, driven. Each one pursued medicine, specializing in different fields: surgery, diagnostics, and obstetrics. By 1892, they had grown tired of the factory smoke and endless emergency calls. They craved stillness, country air, and the chance to build something of their own together. That dream led them to Amherst, Ohio, a town carved from sandstone and surrounded by farmland and forest, and many, many years later would become my hometown and stomping grounds. Here they purchased several acres on the western edge of town, just beyond what locals then called the Whispering Pines. The land had no history, no structures, just space, silence, and promise.
The mansion they built wasn't just a home, it was a statement. A towering colonial revival with a symmetrical facade, massive front porch, twin chimneys, and white shutters on every window. The house rose 3 stories high with thick oak framing, imported marble fixtures, and fireplaces in nearly every room. They even constructed a 2-story barn in the back, complete with horse stalls, a hay loft, and a large tack room. Everything was handcrafted. Local stone, brick, and wood from the nearby Black River Mills. The first floor was reserved for their personal living space: dining room, library, parlor, kitchen. The second housed bedrooms and offices for seeing patients. The third, that was for the staff, mostly unmarried women from the area, hired as housemaids, cooks, and caretakers. And at the center of it all was Clara Walsh. Clara was hired shortly after construction finished. Barely 20, she was sharp, quiet, and precise. She handled everything from linens to the doctor's schedules, often rising before dawn and retiring well past midnight. Despite the size of the staff, everyone agreed Clara was the one who kept the house running. But that house, no matter how grand it looked, was a pressure cooker of ambition, secrets, and unspoken tension. The brothers had different visions for the future, different temperaments, and the line between partnership and rivalry was already beginning to blur. What none of them could have known was that their dream home, this mansion built with care and pride, would soon become a prison of regret, a tomb, and a doorway to something that never left.
Clara Walsh wasn't like the other hired help. She had grown up just a few towns away, raised by her grandmother after a fever took both of her parents. She was independent, practical, and perhaps a bit too curious for her own good. She had a softness that made people feel at ease. That's what Dr. Edward noticed first. Where Henry and Joseph kept their distance from the help, Edward was different. He lingered in conversation. He watched her as she polished silver or arranged books in the library. And in time, she noticed him too. The relationship began in hushed moments, passing glances in the hallway, hands brushing as they exchanged linens or files. He'd stay up late in the study, and she'd quietly bring him tea. One night the tea became talk, the talk became laughter, and the laughter became something else. They thought no one knew. They thought they were careful. But in a house that large, with walls that creaked and servants who listened, secrets never stayed hidden for long.
By the fall of 1896, Clara was pregnant, and Edward was terrified. Not terrified of becoming a father, but of what his brothers would say. You have to remember, this wasn't just a family home. It was their practice, their public image. A scandal like this could destroy everything they'd worked for. He promised her he'd take care of it, that he'd convince his brothers, that they'd find a way to leave. Maybe go west, start over. He swore he'd stand beside her. But there was one brother who didn't need to be told. Dr. Joseph had already begun to suspect. He'd noticed the glances, the missed chores, the soft humming Clara would do when she thought no one was listening. Joseph was the eldest, the stern one. He had no wife, no children. He lived for discipline, for control, and for legacy. He saw Edward's affair not as a betrayal, but as a disgrace, a stain on the Nabakowski name. And as his jealousy festered, so did his anger. In the winter of 1897, everything came crashing down. One account claims Joseph found a letter tucked beneath Clara's pillow, a note Edward had written, promising they'd run away before spring. Another version says Joseph confronted Edward directly and was laughed at, mocked, dismissed. Whatever the spark was, it lit a fire that consumed the entire house. On a bitterly cold February night, the household was unusually quiet. Snow had buried the roads, and most of the staff had retired early. That's when Clara was attacked. Her body was found at the base of the servants' staircase, limbs twisted, face beaten so badly it was nearly unrecognizable. Blood trailed down the steps, her white apron soaked crimson. She was barely only 21 years old.
Henry found her, or what was left of her. He tried to summon help, ran down to the cellar for the phone line, but he never made it back upstairs. Authorities later said he'd been poisoned, tea laced with laudanum and crushed belladonna. It was likely prepared that morning by Joseph. And Edward, he didn't even get a chance to grieve. As he sat in the study, holding Clara's brooch in his hand, Joseph stabbed him from behind. The blade pierced between his ribs. They say his last words were Clara's name. Joseph then walked out into the snow-covered night, into the barn they once used for sleigh rides and spring foaling. He climbed into the hayloft, wrapped the leather horse reins around a thick beam, and then his own neck, and then jumped. Just like that, 3 brothers, 1 housekeeper with child and 1 house, all dead within 24 hours, and no justice, no trial, only rumors and shadows. But the story doesn't end there, because long after the bodies were buried, the mansion remained, cold, silent, and very much alive.
In the decades that followed the murders, the Nabakowski Mansion became a quiet scar on the outskirts of Amherst. The townspeople rarely spoke of it. Some said the house should be torn down. Others believed that disturbing the grounds would awaken something far worse. People moved in, and people moved out. Some tried to turn it into a bed and breakfast. One family even planned to open a medical museum inside, but no one ever stayed long enough to make a difference or do anything productive with it. They all left with the same stories. Footsteps on the 3rd floor when no one was home, cabinets slamming shut, the sound of a woman weeping just beyond a closed door.
But for me, it wasn't a story. When I was growing up, I had a close friend, Mike. He lived in that house with his family. He was a bandmate of mine. We spent hours practicing music in one of the back rooms on the 3rd floor, where the acoustics were just strange, too much echo, like the house was always listening. But then again, at the age of 16 and 17, what did I really know about sound? I still get chills when I think about it. The first time I stayed overnight there, I noticed things were off. The house had this unnatural cold, even in the middle of summer. Certain corners always felt darker, like the light itself refused to touch them. I asked Mike and his sister Deanna about it, and they giggled and said that the house was haunted, and told me the stories that they heard and were told. I remember Deanna telling me that her bedroom was the actual bedroom of Clara, the housekeeper. She told me a story of one night she heard rustling in her closet and went to look in there. When she opened the door, the noises stopped, and her bedroom window quickly slammed shut. As she went over to the window, she said she noticed something shiny on the window ledge. Getting closer, she realized that it was a folding pocket knife opened up and sitting there. I'm not sure if they were telling me the truth or if they were filling my imagination with a whole lot of nonsense. Either way, it worked. I was freaked out, and there was nothing anyone could say or do to change that.
You never told me this part until we started researching this episode. What else did you experience that freaked you out so much?
I still get chills when I think about it. Look, I have goosebumps now. One night we were chasing lining bugs or something to waste time as we took a break from band practice outside. Just after dusk, the barn was behind the house, still standing and sturdy as the day it was built. My friend dared me to go in. Being young and fearless, I took that dare. But I remember the moment I stepped just inside the barn doors. The air changed. It felt thick, like I was walking into water. You could hear the wooden beams creak overhead. And there was this smell, musty leather and old hay, but also something sweeter, like rotting apples. Hesitant, I looked up into the loft, and that's when I saw it. There was a shadow, hanging from the rafters. It wasn't a person. It wasn't even solid. It was darker than the darkness around it, like the light itself was bending away. It didn't move much, just swayed, like it was still caught in some long-forgotten rhythm. I later convinced myself that it was just the reflection from the streetlight shining on the trees, and that was the shadow that it made.
Holy shit. Did your friend see it too?
Oh yeah. We both bolted. As soon as we got into the house, we both looked at each other with a blank look on our faces. Didn't say a word for what felt like a eternity. Then his mom came in the kitchen and scared the shit out of us and laughed, asking what we were doing and why we were out of breath. We used some lame excuse about chasing fireflies and smoking a cigarette or something like that, and then just walked up to the third floor again to work on some music. Neither one of us really spoke of it or what we saw, but it definitely left an impression on us both.
What about inside the house?
I remember not being able to sleep and kept an eye open, just looking and waiting for something to happen. I woke up around 3 a.m. The house was dead silent. No pipes, no wind, just still. And believe me, once your mind starts going in that direction, that will scare the hell out of you more than anything. Silence can be a bitch. After about an hour of silence, footsteps, soft, deliberate, coming down the hallway toward the room I was sleeping in. I peered up over my blanket and pillow. With hesitation, I looked toward the door, and that's when I saw her. A woman in a pale dress, barefoot, hair tied up like something from a century ago. She didn't look at me. She just passed by the open door and disappeared down the hallway.
Clara?
I knew it was her. Every part of me screamed to run, to say or do something, but I just lay there frozen. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I didn't move until the sun came up and brightened up the room. When morning came, I never said anything. I kept it to myself.
You really saw her?
I do believe that yes, I saw her, and somehow I felt her pain, even now talking about her. I can still feel the pain. She wasn't malicious. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was lost, searching, probably still looking for her child, for Edward, for peace she never got. And Joseph? He's in the barn. I don't know what's keeping him there. Guilt, anger, something worse. But that thing I saw, that shadow, it wasn't just a memory. It was him, still hanging, still trapped. The past never stays buried long, not when it's soaked into the walls, into the wood, into the land itself. The Nabakowski Mansion isn't just haunted. It remembers.
The Nabakowski Mansion still stands as a testament to the time period it was built. Weathered, cracked, but unyielding. A century of Ohio wind and snow has tried to wear it down, but the house refuses to fall, like it's holding itself together. Out of spite. It's been bought and sold more than a dozen times. Some tried to restore it. One couple moved in, hoping to turn it into a charming bed and breakfast. They left after only 3 weeks. They told friends they kept hearing a woman's voice upstairs, calling out softly, crying. One night, the wife said she saw a woman in a long white gown standing at the end of the hall, holding something swaddled in her arms. When she looked closer, there was nothing there, just shadows and cold air. Sometime in the early 2000s, a group of amateur ghost hunters from nearby Oberlin College conducted an overnight investigation. They brought with them all the usual gear, EMF detectors, tape recorders, infrared cameras. One student, her name was Carrie, claimed she could hear the house. She said it breathed in her ear, that it was aware of them, watching. They lasted until midnight. The final audio recording, captured just before they ran from the house, featured a voice whispering a single word, jealous.
Another team, years later, managed to capture a thermal image in the barn's upper loft. The silhouette of a man hanging by the neck, legs straight, arms limp. But when they ran up to inspect, there was nothing. No rope, no body. The air, they said, was freezing. Some locals swear they've seen that same shadow swing in the moonlight, especially during certain times of year when the anniversary of the murders comes around, February. Snow sometimes still thick on the ground, just like the night it all happened. One paranormal researcher who asked not to be named called the mansion a memory trap, a place so emotionally charged, so fractured by trauma that time itself bends inside its walls. He believes Clara's spirit is still there, looping through the halls in search of her baby, forever caught between love and grief. And Joseph? His energy is something else entirely. Twisted, angry. It doesn't wander. It waits. The barn is his domain, and he doesn't want to be forgotten.
There's also a story from the early 2000s. An old man who lived 2 houses down. He said his dog would never walk past the property, would plant its feet, growl at the barn, and refuse to move. One winter, he found the dog clawing at the fence, barking at the hayloft like it saw something that no one else could. And then there's the people who dream about it. A former owner said she'd see Clara in her sleep, standing at the foot of her bed, hair tangled, dress torn, lips moving, but making no sound. The dreams only stopped when she moved to another state. There's a reason the property has been listed at a fraction of its value for decades. Realtors won't show it at night. Insurance agents won't step inside. The Nabakowski Mansion is more than haunted. It's haunted with purpose. It doesn't just replay echoes of the past, it pulls you into them. And once you step inside, you're a part of the story. 3 brothers. One betrayal, one lost soul, and a house that refuses to forget.
We tell these stories not just to frighten, but to remember, to give voice to the forgotten, and to remind ourselves that behind every legend is a life, a choice, a consequence. When I think back to that house, I still feel it, the stillness of the air, the way the hall seemed to stretch longer at night, and that shadow in the barn, it never looked at me. But somehow, I knew it could have.
What you saw, what you felt, that never leaves you. It becomes part of you. And maybe that's what hauntings really are. Not just spirits trapped in buildings, but memories, emotions, energy that imprints itself on those who witness it. Clara wasn't just a ghost. She was a young woman who had her future stolen. And Joseph. Maybe he's not just a monster in the rafters, but a broken soul that never found peace. We all carry ghosts. Some follow us, some live in the corners of our minds, and some wait for us in places like the Nabakowski Mansion.
If you're ever in Amherst, Ohio, and you feel the urge to stop by that old white house at the edge of town, don't go alone. I wish I could tell you how to get there, but I honestly don't remember. It's been over 40 years since I have been by there. I do know it's behind the service plaza on the turnpike, if that helps. If you go and when you're there, if you hear a soft voice calling from the 3rd floor, don't answer. She's not looking for you. She's still looking for him. Thanks for sipping something dark with us tonight on Creepy Coffee's podcast. If you've had your own brush with the paranormal, if there's a story in your town that no one talks about anymore, we want to hear it. Send your experiences to contact@creepycoffees.com or DM us on Instagram as Creepy Coffees Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, smash the like and subscribe button and leave us a review. Help keep the hauntings alive and the coffee hot. Visit our website for all things Creepy Coffees and see what we're up to and some upcoming cool trips we have going on. Until next time, friends.
I'm your midnight barista, Dawn Ravenscar, along with my partner in the caffeinated paranormal, Eddie Ravenscar. As always, Be good to each other and stay creepy.
Thanks for joining us tonight on Creepy Coffees. We explore the dark corners, so you don't have to go alone. And if this case chilled you like it chilled us, give us a follow, drop a review, and share the show with someone who loves a mystery. Grab your merch, check out our haunted coffee reviews, and explore our ghost hunting adventures at creepycoffees.com. We're also on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Come say hi. We're always brewing up something new and exciting.
Because whether it's a cold case or a cup of coffee left untouched, some stories are meant to linger. And remember, every ghost story deserves a good cup of coffee. And as always, be good to each other and stay creepy.